and welcome to Out of the Darkroom on Adorama TV. I'm Ruth Medjber and today I'm going to be chatting to Seamus Travers about his vintage street photography. Seamus, thank you so much for joining me today.
No problem.
So maybe if you could just tell us a little bit about how you got your start in photography.
Like in Ireland, there's a thing where you do transition year, so you take a year off and you have to go to a workplace and a system. And it could be some people went off, be a teacher's assistant, and because my dad was a photographer and I never really knew what he did. He never really, I don't know if he really encouraged it or not. It was just kind of there because I grew up with it and I didn't want to do what my dad did. But I just said, look, I'll assist him. He showed me the darkroom, things like that. And I started just going around photographing on the streets when I was a teenager. And I had an old film camera. I still have it today. It was an old Nikon F3. And so I'd walk around, snap pictures. Then after school, I became an animator. So I studied animation, and animation and filmmaking, like stills were touched upon a little bit, but like the type of street photography I was doing, it wasn't considered, you know, back then it wasn't fine art enough, or it wasn't considered real enough photography. So I stopped, and I actually stopped doing photography for about 10 years. I'd worked as an animator for a little bit, realized I didn't like it. And back then I'd studied classical animation, because that whole computer animation, that was a fad at the time. That's never going to take off.
Never.
And unfortunately, found myself not getting much work doing classical animation. I started then, because I knew a bit of Photoshop for colouring in backgrounds and things like that, where you draw a backdrop, you'd colour it in Photoshop sometimes. Originally, my first job was like removing dust in like Photoshop version 3 or 4, I think, off negatives. And I did that for a couple of years. And the photographers would be going off on location. So I started then just these photographers I was doing post-production for, I started training with them.
And then you mentioned that your work does involve a lot of travel. I mean, I've seen from your website, you've got projects in Quebec and then in Turkey and pretty much everywhere around the world. When you're picking your holiday destination, do you go by, I just want to visit Canada, or do you go, I want to go and look for something in particular?
Yeah, most of them would be pre-planned, where I'm always trying to research somewhere to go next. Like the one in Canada, it was me and my girlfriend, we were visiting her sister who lives there. And it was just by chance, we were driving around Quebec, I'd rented a car, and I just noticed that everywhere, every crossroad in Quebec, there's a cross. And when I was asking locals about it, they didn't really know much. Like most people in Quebec were just like, oh yeah, there's just crosses everywhere. And I just thought that was a really good series, but to the local people, it's kind of something that's average and everyday to them. But for me, I thought it was really weird that no matter where you'd go, there'd be a crucifix on every crossroad, everywhere. And even in the middle of nowhere, like you'd drive like 4 hours into the wilderness and you'd find a cross.
Did you ever find out what it means?
Yeah, I emailed a few people, and apparently like the Catholic Church years ago just commissioned a couple of thousand crosses to be built around Quebec. And I'd love to go back, because I only documented a fraction of them, but I'd love to go back and
spend ages.
Yeah.
And tell me about how you shot that. I mean, it looks kind of panoramic. What did you shoot that on?
Oh yeah, it was on a Hasselblad X-Pan.
Oh.
So I mainly used the Hasselblad X-Pan for like street photography, because it's a camera made for landscape. It was kind of a type of camera you'd stick in your backpack, climb up a mountain, and it was quite a panoramic camera that's quite kind of compact. Now it's pretty heavy because it's really sturdy camera, but originally I was using it for street photography. So I'd go into, you know, a street situation, or like there used to be in Dublin used to be a horse fair in Smithfield.
Yeah,
it's gone now, unfortunately, but I used to go into that with the X-Pan a lot, because it's so wide as well. Oftentimes, like, somebody would be here, it's getting everything in shot, but you could be shooting over someone's shoulder, don't even realise they don't even think they're in a frame, they think you're shooting over their shoulder, but you're actually getting everything in, and you can really get into a crowd with it.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult, the panoramic format's really difficult, particularly with street photography, because you have to get everything, something interesting right across the frame. But yeah, it's a cool camera.
Do you think that's what makes for a good street photo, is that you have to get a bit of detail everywhere?
Yeah, God, it like street photography, like it's something, it's really hard to define. Like for me, even street photography, you could divide up into even subgenres. Like there's like some street photography, it's that kind of juxtaposed, kind of funny. They're almost like a single joke kind of photo. But even with like someone like, you look at someone like Alex Webb, where his photos are really complex and brilliantly colored, and the colors juxtapose, and there'd be a random chaotic situation, but whatever way he's framed it, there's this beautiful like mathematical symmetry in it. And it's completely different from the kind of one joke kind of street photos. And even with my own street photos, I'd love to be able to do a frame the way Alex Webb does, but most of my pictures are more kind of, I'm trying to get numbers, like I'm trying to get odd and even numbers in a frame, juxtaposed against each other. Like I try working like 2s or 3s or 5s. I try to get various numbers compositionally in a frame, and that's what I'm kind of looking for. And that's, I'd love to get out of that, but I'm kind of now, I've been doing that type of thing for so long, I'm kind of stuck in it.
I think if that's your style, and if you've had a background in animation and things like that, you probably know how to line up things perfectly the way your brain would like them. So it's great. And I think a lot of your shots as well show action really well. And in particular, the horse fair, you know, the shot you have of the horse jumping in the air, I have no idea how you got that, but that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. I mean, is that something that you're always looking for, like before it happens?
Like I think with street photography, like when you see, oftentimes, and particularly because I shoot kind of older manual cameras, I don't have autofocus, I'm using cameras that all have to manually be set. So like when I turn a street corner and walk down the street, and if the light changes, I have to change everything because it's all manual cameras. So everything has to be pre-planned out and thought of beforehand. And so you're always trying to anticipate something before it happens. So you have to look at people's body language. Or even sometimes if you'll see someone unusual, I'll follow them or I'll stalk them, and I'll wait till something else happens or juxtaposes against them. So you always have to kind of pre-plan, but it often involves, okay, that person's interesting, let's see what's going to happen against them, and you know.
So it's stalking and anticipating.
Yeah.
That's the rules of street photography. Yeah. Amazing. There's great sense of anticipation in your shots. Was it a protest or a riot in Istanbul?
Yeah, it was during, it was 2013, and it was the Gezi Park and Taksim Square protests to occupy Gezi, and I was there really by coincidence, by chance. Well, I didn't go over specifically. There's a street photographer I really like called Simon Becker from Germany, and I'd arranged to meet him in Istanbul.
And I'm really glad you did. You got some absolutely outstanding images. The girl in the cab on the phone, and then, you know, someone leaning on with a gas mask. That looks like something's just happened instantly around her, and she hasn't got a clue what's going on. And tell me, and what's kind of in your head when you're going out, when you're walking out of your lovely hostel with your camera in your hand? What are you looking for?
Yeah, like, and again, it was more to document the situation. Like I'm really big into history, so I'm always trying to, I would almost be as big into history as I am photography. So I'm always trying to document something from a historical point of view, but also try get a really interesting or funny or quirky picture.
Put your own kind of like...
Yeah, put an own spin on it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's brilliant that you should say that, because I think it comes through a lot in your work that you're into history and capturing moments. And you did this fabulous series, and I thought it was just so gorgeous, of the hair salon. Was it Robert's hair salon?
Yeah.
I mean, you've documented this period in time where this hair salon, which is used by pensioners, really, older people.
Yeah.
I mean, what was your motivation to do that?
Yeah, I remember I on the street, there was this old hair salon, and I would always pass by it, and it would only, particularly old grannies would go in and they'd get a blue rinse. And I'd always pass by, and I'd go in to ask permission, and they'd say no, it's, you know, no pictures allowed. And then I saw a sign one day that they're closing, and so I went in, and I said, "Can I take pictures now?" And they said, "Look, next week will be our last day. You can come in on the 2 days before we close. You can come in." So just those last 2 days of them operating in business, they allowed me in to take pictures. So and it was great because like you did the old telephone and a picture of the Pope above it, and it was a time capsule. And I remember they were all fine with me taking pictures, because I don't think there's another hairdressers like that left
No.
now. That was the last of them.
Thank you so much for coming in and chatting to me about your work. I've really enjoyed it. But you're going to stay with me now, and on the next episode, we're going to talk about your equipment and your processing techniques, if that's okay with you.
Grand, yeah.
Well, that's all we have for this episode. I hope you enjoyed the show. Join me again next time when I'm going to be chatting to Seamus about his processing techniques. If you want to brush up on your own photography skills, then check out the Adorama Learning Centre and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos. Thanks, and I'll see you again soon.